So just going forward, I'm hoping this continues. I think it's important it continues. I just like to see a little bit more advertisement because I think you could have room for it. Just my 2 cents, whatever that's working.
Actually, input, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Micah or discussion amongst the board in regards to the sale? There is a business item in the regular meeting here in a few minutes. Since we don't have any bids, we've not entertained an auction. That second option as the new business is for us to declare a no sale and then have a conversation about, do we want to set a future date? Do we want to wait until our April meeting to set a future date for publication of another public hearing? And then we can have the conversation about, just like Micah said, do we feel like we need to do a direct mail campaign or advertise in a different manner to try to attract bidders?
So the people that, I know the people have been in contact about it.
Yep.
How are they hearing about it? Just because we've done this kind of for a number of years, so they just, with their interest,
Yep.
come to the school, or is there some other way that they're finding out about it per se?
Yeah, I think that whether it's word of mouth or the stories that have been done in the newspaper previously about the project or social media posts about the
When was
phases of
the last
construction.
newspaper article? Was that?
Just this last week, and we had the public notice 2 weeks ago. So it's run the last 3 newspapers since we've had our
Okay.
last February board meeting. Then on the website, after you approved the resolution for the February board meeting.
Mhm.
Jackie just texted me and said the public notice was February 26th or 22nd, 3/1, and then 3/8. So the last 3 newspapers.
And then there was an actual article on it just this last.
Yep.
I think these last 2 weeks are really.
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago, actually.
Okay.
Where's the article in the paper?
I don't really think maybe. I guess it was.
Did you want to, do we need to take a motion to close the public hearing?
We typically don't.
So Jackie's gonna take minutes based on. Yeah, virtually, so to speak.
Help her out a little bit here.
Yep.
Okay, at 7 o'clock, we'll close the hearing for the sale of the industrial tech house and open up regular meeting. Please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have 4 out of 5 here. Jackie, Mr. Koo is not joining us this evening. I agenda, any additions, changes to the agenda?
The only thing that I would say as an addition is I listed all the recognitions and congratulations, and that's why I printed the kind of detailed agenda that you have in front of you. Otherwise, all the business items remain the same.
Okay, so a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion second to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public input on non-agenda items. I don't believe anyone has signed up to address the board. Approval of past minutes. Questions or input there?
Mr. Herman?
Right.
Okay, if there's no questions on the past minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to.
Second.
A motion second to approve the minutes of the past meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Financial items. We'll, Jackie, unless you truly want to try to attempt to address us, I think we can walk through these.
When I talked to Jackie, I think if anybody has questions about the financial reports, you wouldn't mind setting up a phone call with her later this week. You heard her a little bit ago. It's not in the best of positions to report orally. I mean, I can kind of just walk you through the similar documents. If you have any questions, the activities report here, you can see our bills for the student constructed home is right now at $99,559. I've got all the materials here, all the invoices, the actual expenses. We're still waiting on a final expense from a formal bill to be paid for the insulation and some of the electrical. And that's why what was advertised on our material list is $131,000 for the total inputs to the house. So this is just a little bit off. Jackie usually points out, we can see our split fund is about $878,000. And that's why we're having our conversation with our insurance broker about updates and changes to our insurance for staff. And it was a conversation that we discussed, Amy, Dave, and I, with the CLEA during negotiations, looking to put those dollars to work for staff in terms of benefits. Again, annual treasurer's report here. You can see things continue to trend. I would say follow up with Jackie if you got any specific questions. And then the special revenues, whether it's management, PEPL, Pearl, Save, and then debt services. So again, as we look at Save and PEPL together, those two, we have about $1.5 million currently in cash. $900,000. Think about $900,000 is for our approved projects with DGR, parking lots, and improvements to the football field and track. And we'll continue to accrue revenue with PEPL and Save, obviously, until the end of the fiscal year. So, again, in a good spot there. Bills, I've got here for us to sign later. And like I said, if you got any other specific questions for Jackie, I know the finance committee, we're going to need to find a time, most likely to have really two meetings in one. First, to review last year's audit, and number two, to kind of review next year's budget, because we will have that public hearing in April to approve the fiscal year 24 budget. So it'll be a little bit longer meeting. but we'll try to kill two birds with one stone.
Mr. Jordan,
Yes,
I know we probably won't be able to have a finance committee meeting for the budget before I need to publicize it. So if the members could take a look at that email that I sent and give me any feedback on it, I'd appreciate it, and so I can get that in the newspaper, depending on when we set the April board meeting.
sounds good. You've already sent that email, Jackie?
I did.
Okay, and then the summary list of bills is included there.
Correct. I didn't see any additional bills today. So what's included in the packet and in the online are our bills for the month.
Okay, any questions on those items? Jackie, anything else to report under school business official report?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve those financial items.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial items.
Motion second to approve the financial items as listed. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to G, administrative reports, discussion items, recognition, congratulations, etc.
Like I said, there has been many things to celebrate since we met in February. I've listed the recognitions and congratulations for students, staff, and community. Obviously, we want to recognize the girls and boys basketball teams for their finishes at the state tournament last 2 weeks. We congratulate them on the championship for the boys and the runner-up finish for the girls. They both were also Siouxland Conference champions and both finished the year 24-1. I listed the individual accolades that I could find online and that the coaches had shared with me. So we congratulate all the individuals and both Coach Gerleman and Coach Graping for their Coach of the Year honors. Just yesterday, we had students at individual state speech in Fort Dodge, or I should say on Saturday. This afternoon, we found out that we had 3 students qualify for all-state speech in Cedar Falls in 2 weeks. So congratulations to Gabby Rasmussen, Anna Van Artsen, and Anna Hortjes. Mr. Langholt and Mrs. Langholt, both the jazz band and jazz choir, have qualified for their state championships that will be held in the next couple weeks between now and our April board meeting. As you probably already saw, the high school robotics team were state champions. So congratulations to those 4 gentlemen and Mr. Allen. We had 8 students participate in the NASA Space Settlement Competition. 2 of them were on the winning and international competition qualifying list. So Lillian Downard and Lane Henricks both qualified to go to Kennedy Space Center this July. So we congratulate both of them and Mr. Wright for chaperoning that event. Middle School Lego League. The 5th and 6th graders, I think it was actually 4th through 8th grade students, did very well in Sioux Falls a little over a week ago. The Cyber Lions were the tournament champions. Roar Robotics were design finalists, and the Robo Lions finished 16th. So we want to thank Mr. Arnold, Annie, and Dan McMahon, and all the parents and community members that helped support the Lego League this year. We're still waiting to see if any of those teams qualified for their national tournament as well. So I know Mr. Arnold still has his fingers crossed that they might qualify. And then middle school show choir, Mrs. Langholt wanted me to congratulate the middle school students on their performances at Shake the Lakes and the Emmitsburg Extravaganza. extravaganza, excuse me. So congratulations to them. You can see Matt Deitch was named the middle school coach of the year by the Iowa Football Coaches Association. Curtis Eben was named Class 2A Northwest Iowa Coach of the Year, also by the Football Coaches Association, and Jeff Jager was the Northwest Iowa Girls Wrestling Coach of the Year by the Iowa Wrestling and Officials Association. So congratulations to them. I listed all the community members and our businesses that helped defray costs associated with the girls and boys trips to Des Moines the last 2 weeks. You can see that list is pretty exhaustive. So we want to thank all the people and the parents that helped to pay for meals, buy snacks at the well, to transport kids back and forth from their hotel to maybe the arena or the mall or wherever they might have been over the course of the last 2 weeks. So we really appreciate the support. So lots and lots of people to recognize and thank. Principals, anybody else you guys wanted to recognize that I might have left off?
It comes to mind, healthy list there.
So, yeah, lots to celebrate. And like we said, we still have kids competing and moving on to even bigger and national stage, international stage competitions. So pretty outstanding.
Okay, we'll move on to principal reports.
So we're right up there on the deer graduation, which is something we celebrate every year with our current sixth grade. Sir Vandersloot does a very nice job, and he was very impressed with our students this year. They did a very nice job, very engaged with them. He really enjoyed this set of sixth graders. One other thing that we report on, we're trying to solidify our process for preschool, transitional kindergarten sign up. Trying to move that ahead. We're going to get that process completed here by the March board meeting. I just gave you two different numbers. The numbers you have on the sheet were as current as I could get before we left for state basketball. I gave you a separate sheet at your desk that changed quite a bit today. So it's the sheet that has the yellow highlighting on there. You can see current numbers for the 2022-23 school year as compared to what the sign-up data is as of the end of the day today. So missing about 19 kids, not 20 there, but numbers are very healthy. From the time sign-up goes to the end of the school year, you usually have a 5 to 10 swing in preschool numbers. TK is very comparable to what we have right now. And then there's about 19 kids. We still got to find out which are probably going to go to kindergarten. We'll wait for conferences to get that recommendation from the teacher, from the gold standards. So some of them, haven't completed this process. We also sent out, the other sheet that you have on your desk is just a sheet that we sent out last week, just to remind parents to sign up and how to complete that process. We tried an online version, which is very effective to help with our data, but we just got to clean it up and get to it. So.
You said that the 20 remaining are those current year preschool kids
Yes.
going to either TK or kindergarten?
Yeah. As we went through, we might have 1 or 2 TK kids that will go to kindergarten, but a majority of them are preschool students that then will decide to go to TK or kindergarten.
And you're thinking at this point that most of them at least will go to kindergarten,
Correct.
which should keep it comparable numbers to last year. Kindergarten a little lower, but
Right.
TK would be in that same range.
Right. So good news for that.
$50 would be on the lower side though, right?
Yeah, this year we had 60,
66.
6.
so we had 4 sections of kindergarten this year.
Yeah.
50 would be pretty average though, right, for a class size?
You're exactly right. So mid-50s has been pretty consistent. We had 2 sections in the elementary that were, one is in 4th grade that's low 40s. We're in 2 sections. second grade, third grade now. Is in 3 sections, but it's still like 48 or 49 students, so. But 55, 56, which we are kind of thinking is gonna be close to the number, is more on average for us.
That kindergarten number of 66 this year, we think that'll go down. Retention.
Correct attention, yeah. It's had some really young students in there,
So I think that'll go down to around 60,
around 16.
the first grade, which is 3 sections.
Yeah.
And then kindergarten would be in that. So is the 20, does that include the 5 or 6 potential? Okay, so we could still easily be in that 55 range. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, anything else, Mr. Harmon?
That is it.
Mr. Ringo?
Yeah, I'll just give you guys some updates on what's going on. Like Mr. Jordan indicated, we've had some excessive absences due to state events and kids going down to show their school pride and support their classmates. So it's been kind of a struggle here this last quarter to kind of get everybody caught up and stay up to speed with things. So our actual third quarter end date was set for last week, Monday. We adjusted that. We actually are ending today. We've made some accommodations for students that have had some extended absences because they've been in Des Moines or they've been down at NASA. Any which way, they robotics, state speech. So we are giving them some flexibility with some of their grades. But we kind of delayed a little bit, because quite a few incompletes. That's to give those kids time to make some stuff up. So we've been doing our best to do that. So that's kind of the rationale for that. Parent-teacher conferences, which are going on right now. High school is being done traditionally in the gymnasium. Those are not scheduled online. We had some confusion there when we sent out some notifications, but those are not scheduled online. You can come in anytime and meet with all your classroom teachers. The 7th grade conferences this time are being teacher-led, not student-led like we've done in the past couple sessions. So that is an adjustment. Those are hard scheduled online. So if you ever get a question with that, those are hard scheduled, 7th and 8th in high school are not. Students, I thought this was important for the board to know it. Timeline. Student registration for classes is going to start this week, so it seems a little early, but it takes quite a bit of planning on Jess's part and my part to make sure we can get some of those bugs out of the way before we dismiss kids for the summer, even though we're going to be here till June. So we want to get some work done with that. So the kids will be registering for 2023-24 classes with Jessica this week and next. Process, just for your information, is also completed with 8th graders in their careers class, Mr. Town and Mrs. Harmon. Over the past several weeks, they've been working on kind of a plan, their career plan or their course plan, mapping out your schedule for themselves. So they go through and work out the bugs and find out what they're interested in, what's all available to them, and what years. May term registration, which will probably be a condensed version of May term once again this year. We'll take the registration for that will take place shortly after we get the 23-24 school year registered. And then I just had some miscellaneous updates at the bottom. Mrs. Christensen did an FCCLA fundraiser. If you remember, that's her newly developed CTSO. We had quite a few kids involved with that program, and they will vote to state again this year. So they did a girls' night, which was a pretty cool and unique fundraiser and went on successfully. So kudos to her and that group for trying something new and making a little bit of money to support the program. And then Mrs. Gerber and I recently attended, we were asked to design and present an MTSS poster, so multi-tier systems of supports, down at the AAA. So we were one of about 7 presenters to quite a wide audience of district leadership and teacher leaders for the work that we're doing in the elementary with PBIS and some of the culture building activities along with restorative practice and culture building activities in high school. So thought I'd give Mrs. Gerber more credit than myself. She did a lot of work with that. She kind of the catalyst for that program district-wide. So that was kind of a fun experience to be able to go in there and kind of share our expertise and show what we're doing at Central Lyon. So more successes this way with school culture and social emotional learning. So that's what I got.
It was like May term, they adjusted then also, and
Yeah, so May term is 20 days typically. 16 days to 18 days is probably what we'll get to, because we'll have to adjust the work. 16 days is about the minimum for some of our required classes, like state and local government, to get enough of the curriculum. Yeah. So it has an impact on midterm plans and things. We'll have to be strategic with scheduling and things, but yeah, we have to make sure we hit everything in the
What are the required midterm classes?
What's that?
What are the required midterm classes?
Like we have a navigator for freshmen. Workplace readiness, there's some different,
Sure.
there's a handful of them. A lot of these classes will carry over, some of your math classes, your
Yeah.
science and your social studies. Then we get a little more, with our elective classes, we like to mix things up based on student or teacher passions. So I can certainly report on that too as it gets a little closer. with what we're-
I was just curious. I think we only had, like, it was required to take service learning or something, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we don't-
I don't know.
yeah, there's different components in service learning.
Yeah.
It's one of those, so most of them will go with Toby and they'll go out
Yeah.
and do some of the parks and some
Yeah.
different things around town. So, yep.
no, I'm just curious.
Just a few of those. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hamilton.
You bet.
Mr. Paul.
Yeah, first item I have is facilities update. It's shared as a part of the board packet. Sketch that Matt Basie had and Patrick Snell had updated based upon our conversation last month. I talked to a couple individual board members. Was just curious if you guys wanted to set up a time to meet with Matt and Patrick between now and our April board meeting, or how you wanted to kind of move forward with the bus barn project. We had talked. I met with Matt, included kind of the summary of that conversation and his draft schedule for that bus barn project. I know we're meeting next Tuesday with ISB for a work session around superintendent evaluation. But I'm happy to try to get Matt here if you guys would like to meet with him on that night or a different night between now and April to review the conversation that I had with him a week and a half ago in regards to the bus barn specifically. We don't have to decide that now. We can talk about that down in our future dates if you want to. But then also the other phases of the project, 1968 windows and casework. Matt is willing to work with me on an hourly basis to try to put together our RFPs so that we can stay below the bid threshold, which is about $190,000 for those projects. You remember, both of those were significantly higher than the estimates, and so we have to think a little bit differently about how we do those. And we were planning kind of phase one where all first floor windows and first floor casework this summer, and then second floor windows and casework the next summer. And then the third summer, the 1998 buildings windows, no casework in the 98 building, just the windows. So if we're trying to stay below that bid threshold so we can have more control over the contractors and the scope of the project, we would need to package those in a manner to stay below $190,000 for each kind of phase of that. The windows separately on its own project, the casework separately on its own. So that might mean 5 classrooms instead of 15 classrooms. Might mean, one side of the hallway instead of both sides of the hallway, or just kindergarten classrooms and TK classrooms one year, and then first grade and maybe second grade classrooms the next year. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of was our conversation. And like I said, he's willing to help me kind of put all those documents together, all the plans together, and then for us to try to find somebody locally to help us with those projects and stay primarily below the bid threshold. Tomorrow, Larry Wright from ABC Creative will be here to walk both the elementary playground space, look at the equipment that we currently have, and then the preschool playground. He had designs from when we were working with Matt, but now that it's just the two of us, and he's essentially going to be the general on those projects, we're going to meet tomorrow and I'll have an update for everybody following that conversation. The middle school bridge, really, there's no changes to that design. We bid it in the fall, rejected the bid. Bid it again here in the spring, rejected that bid. The only question is do we want to include it with the bus barn like we kind of talked about as an optional alternate? Or do we just move forward with that project independently and separately like we had kind of attacked that last fall? The numbers last fall and this spring were comparable. Really the escalation was just due to material costs, labor costs. There wasn't a significant increase in the bus or in the bridge. So the estimate that we have is still over the bid threshold, so we would have to go through a public bidding process, whether we attach it to the bus barn or we run it independently. And then, like I kind of already alluded to, parking lots and athletic complexes. Continue to trade messages with Gary Kurth. Once the snow is finally melted, then we'll be able to have an organization meeting to talk about when exactly we might start. And if you remember, we could begin down at the activity center, really at any point that we felt comfortable and wanted to do that. Buildings and Grounds Committee talked about wanting to start that right after our final track meet because parking is used for track meets. We host a high school track meet and a middle school track meet. The middle school track meet's the one that would be the final track meet. Really for practice, there probably wouldn't be any disruption for practice even if we have kids running at state track that last weekend in May. So they could probably get started on some of the removal of the fences and some of the dirt work and the preparation, even though the kids would still be practicing. So again, once the snow is melted, then we'll really begin to develop a definitive timeline for when those different phases of the project will be started, knowing that our completion date is August 15th, so that when kids are coming back to school, staff is coming back to school, the parking lots are done, the football field and track is ready to go for that first competition date. So that's my facilities updates. The second one, our current openings. Again, we've got some recommendations for hirings and transfers later on in the new business. But based upon those recommendations, we really have 3 teaching positions that we're looking to fill. First grade, fourth grade, 7th and 8th grade social studies. Mr. Harmon has already interviewed an elementary teacher candidate. We've got a couple more interviews tomorrow, actually, for elementary positions. And then Mr. Engelman is setting up the 7th and 8th grade social studies interviews. We've got 2 candidates already identified. We're just trying to coordinate when those interviews will happen. Otherwise, the other positions there that are listed, the learner assistant, assistant baseball coach, and the other coaching positions, as well as the National Honor Society position, remain open. We're assuming some of our 3 new hires for those elementary and the middle school position will fit some of those extra duty positions.
And that learner assistant position, that's been kind of the whole year.
Yeah,
That's something that we just
never been able to fill. We just literally last week got an application, so Mr. Harmon's setting up that interview hopefully this week as well. So those are the current openings. Any follow-up or any further conversation or discussion, facilities or open positions that you guys?
Yeah, on that bus barn.
Yep.
Did we decide to kind of completely revamp that, or were we just looking for estimates for like a stick built on our current bid? I guess I thought that's what our plan was after our last meeting.
Yep, and so, again, when I talked to Matt a week and a half ago, they had that sketch already drawn, and so I wanted to share that with you.
Okay.
He can use the specifications and the drawings that we had previously for whether it's a pre-engineered metal building or a wooden structure,
No,
but the plans that were developed were around masonry and then the heating and cooling in the sprinkler system that are associated with a masonry building.
they can't incorporate that into a stick building with the same design?
Not based upon what we talked about when I met with him a week and a half ago.
So you're telling me that they can't take that design and just put wood and steel and everything and incorporate the heating accordingly?
Right, and so, again, that was the conversation that I had. If you want to have Matt come and explain it to the board, that's where I think
Yeah.
we need to find a date
Yeah.
to have that conversation.
I thought the intent was just to keep the existing design and
Yeah.
basically revamp it and see
Yeah.
how much
think-
savings we would have.
I think there's some interesting things with that. New drawing a little bit, some things to consider with that, maybe, I'm the same way, thinking the same way as you, Scott, that I wasn't really thinking there was gonna be a new drawing or anything, and I didn't know how that came into play, and I talked to Brent about that too earlier. But I think it just makes sense for us as a board to meet with Matt and with our like with our Steve and Lane, and what is most important to them and what is most important to us financially, what are we comfortable with, and trying to get all those pieces to go together, because it seems like there's some of these pieces haven't fit together quite like we had maybe hoped. So, the financial part got to be a little bit more, but I think it would be good sooner than later. And I think, like you said, we would talk about maybe when we meet. Is that May 28th? Is that in
March 28th.
March
It's 2 weeks,
28th?
yeah.
Yep.
In 2 weeks?
2 weeks, sorry.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, so if I'm okay, we can talk about that later when it gets calendar, but if we just have a longer meeting then, I would be fine with that, to however we go.
Yeah, I can
Or
tell
after.
Lou, let's keep the superintendent evaluation kind of work session to an hour. And then Matt can have an hour, and that way we try to keep it, 5:30 to 7:30, or we can start with Matt at 4:30, whatever. So that everybody can have that conversation with Matt in addition to the information that I relayed here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. From my perspective, I would like to get a better understanding of what does Lane probably in particular, and probably you as well, Brent, what do you view as the must-haves, the nice-to-haves, and the should-haves? So,
Yeah.
and then we can
Yeah.
prioritize those things based on how those things affect cost, and layout, those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel comfortable with our first plan for the most part, but maybe there's a few adjustments there based on conversations. I don't think the draft, going drastic to what this new plan is, I wasn't really thrilled with, but maybe there's,
There might be somewhere in between.
yeah, there might be a few adjustments there's a few things in our original plan that I don't think we originally thought were going to be included, but because of code or because of
Sure.
this, having to have this room a little bigger, different things happen because of that, and maybe we need to, like I say, just prioritize what's important, like you're saying, and then,
So maybe in preparation for that, maybe you meet with Lane, and maybe that's already been done with the Buildings and Grounds Committee, is prioritize those things of what has to be there, what's a must-have, what's a should-have, and what's a nice-to-have.
Yeah, I think that's what we did during the study phase, right? And that's how we came to the design of the last one. And then the materials, whether it was masonry or the pre-engineered steel, is what led to the plans and the specifications that we ultimately took out to bid. And then based upon my conversation I had with Matt a week and a half ago, because it's not masonry, because they never took a pre-engineered to a full plans and specs, it was simply an estimate during the study.
Right.
That's why they just came up with that sketch. to try to meet what they feel is most appropriate, whether it's stick-built or it's pre-engineered.
So why did he remove all those things? I guess I'm confused why he chose to remove all that.
That's a question that I think the board needs to ask and have a conversation with Matt about.
I know one thing with this drawing and kind of talking with Brent about it, with the new drawing, like there's, I don't know how closely you looked at it, but there's like kind of a wall. There's like, I don't know how many.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that allows you to not need a bathroom because of the square footage. Now, I do feel we need a bathroom out there. In our first plan, there was 2 bathrooms, which I don't think was needed, but that was a code issue because of the size. So now, you know, that wall, I guess, is something we never discussed, but maybe that,
So that's,
Does that
I
make
pulled it up here. Yep, so the reason they did this was to, again, both of these structures would be under 5,000 square feet with that center wall. And so then the code requirements change. So the occupancy requirements change as well. And so you could have no bathroom, or you could have 1 bathroom in a less than 5,000 square foot space. So that's why he removed the bathrooms. If you wanted, he could very easily put the bathrooms back. The other portion of this is this mechanical room is roughly the size of that office space as well. So the number of bays over here and the wash bay stayed the same. The only thing that we're lost is that light maintenance bay. And we're gaining this as enclosed space. So again, I think I can try to be the middleman here and try to relay our conversation. I think it's better for the board just to meet with Matt and have the conversation about, just like you're talking right now. Lane, Steve, the board, about what are the need to haves, what are the nice to haves, and what are the want to haves.
Could we, well, I guess that's a question. I don't mind the wall in there for a couple of reasons, but I guess that was never an option to us. Can you add that wall to our existing design and put 1 bathroom there? So
I feel like probably
it would be a-
can, you know, so,
How much it costs versus in the same bathroom.
right,
Right.
exactly.
Well,
Mhm.
to be honest, you know, not what worst case scenario though is if you have that center wall in there and it's a 2-hour fire barrier, if 1 bus starts on one side, maybe a complete loss of
Yeah.
lose every bus.
Another thought that I had was maybe you do leave the non-wash bay side, leave that completely unheated. Maybe you could put some heating in the other section. If you have a wall.
You know, the other thing I've seen in some truck sheds and stuff like too is, you know, do we have to enclose that? You know, there's some that just put a curtain around the wash bay to keep the water and everything in, and do we have to put a wall in there?
Exactly.
Yep. And I guess I feel if that March 28th date doesn't work with Matt, and I know schedules are, like, I know it's tricky to find dates to begin with, but if it's possible to do it before that date, I'd lean towards that rather than after, because I want to have him have time to get numbers so that at our April board meetings, our April board meeting, we have more of a final plan than keeping us going.
That's only 2 weeks away. I don't know how much you're gonna gain by trying to go over it.
By what?
I don't know if you'll gain much by going, trying to go earlier than 2 weeks from now.
Well, I'm just saying if he can't meet that date,
Oh, okay.
I'd rather go a little bit
Next week
sooner if he
or-
can, yeah.
Okay.
Rather than going in April and then we have a week, he has a week to know what our thoughts are on it, to get numbers together.
So this one
I
goal
want-
would be to get Matt here for the 28th.
Yep.
And discuss design.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then if 28 doesn't work for him, I'll send out a doodle that has some other dates between now and our April meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Sharing committee, sorry, David.
Oh, go ahead.
Nothing.
Yep,
Yep.
sharing committee.
We met with George, the George Sharing Committee. Yeah, it seems like a long time ago now, but it was after our February meeting. A positive, productive meeting. You know, in the new business, we have the updated sharing agreement contract in the minutes from that meeting. Scott, is there anything that you wanted to share or?
It was a productive meeting. We talked about a lot of things, you know, brought everybody's mind, and yeah, it was, you know, ultimately everybody wanted to continue on with the sharing. You know, the kids enjoy it, and that's ultimately what we want to, plus the success that the teams have had is encouraging as well, so.
Yeah, so, you know, the big change in the sharing agreement contract is any changes to future schedules will be mutually agreed upon. That conversation really centered around cross-country. You know, we do know we've got 2 changes in the cross-country schedule for next year. The first being, obviously, the conference meet will run in the War Eagle Conference cross-country meet. And then, since Unity is joining the Siouxland Conference, they are no longer hosting their meet at Orange City. And so that created an opening in the schedule. And so that was replaced with the meet in Kingsley. So that was a part of our conversation. But really, any changes to the schedule going forward will be mutually agreed upon by the ADs and superintendents. Personnel Committee, Amy and Dave and I met twice with CLEA during negotiations, and you saw it as a new business item. We have our recommendation for 4% salary increase, $2,345 increase to full-time teaching staff members, $180,000 in total new money for teachers. So again, very productive conversation with Chris Wright, Ben Docker, and Mike Groen. Appreciated the conversation. I felt very productive meeting. And then, as Jackie said, finance, check your email to kind of review the budget proposal that she has. Still waiting for the final version of the audit report from our auditor. So we'll try to have that meeting before our April meeting, specifically about both those things. It will, like Jackie referenced, have to happen before she has to, or happen most likely after she publishes the budget in the paper.
Okay, we'll move on to old business. Under policies, second readings of 3 policies.
Yes, so 41102, 41202, and 41204. Again, 411 is just updating language to match what our practice has been. I bring all classified employees to the board for your approval. Policy says that I have the authority simply to hire classified staff, which is our support staff. So that's the first one. 412, again, adds language that directors, building principals, or the superintendent can approve overtime. Again, it says building principals currently in policy, but Steve Bresky really is the one that's dealing with this most frequently when it comes to things like snow removal or maintenance staff for activities that might go over their regular 40-hour work week. And then 41204, again, removing reference to the collective bargaining unit. That's no longer a permissive or legal subject of bargaining when we're talking about sheltered program.
Okay, any questions on those four? Excuse me, those three? Is there a motion to approve those second readings of those three policies?
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the three policies listed.
Second?
Motion and second to approve the second reading of the three policies as listed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Two tabled items, and we'll just leave those on the table. I don't think we need to take any action on those. Move on to new business, salary negotiation settlement with CLEA. As Mr. Toro mentioned, $2,345 for a full-time teacher, 4%, new money, short of $180,000.
Amy, anything to add from our meeting?
No, I thought it went really well and
Yes.
very reasonable negotiation. I thought.
Yeah, we really met in the middle. Their initial proposal, our initial proposal, and right down the line. So next year, I would tell you that is a language year. So typically, those years take a little longer because we're actually looking at details in the contract. If you remember when Chapter 20 changed, really, the board has the authority to discuss and determine the majority of the language changes. And we determine what we want to ultimately discuss and have a conversation about and amend in the contract. Chapter 20 says, all we want to talk about is base wage. That's the only mandatory subject of bargaining. And so that's why we discuss that every year.
What was their increase last year?
It was a $2,000 per teacher increase. And if you remember, we also did a $1,000 one-time bonus. All teachers got that from the governor, but then we did an additional $1,000 for all teachers in the fall, and we used ESSER dollars. So it was really $3,000, knowing that 1,000 of that was just a one-time payment. So the total settlement, when you looked at the settlement last year compared to this year, is very similar as far as general fund implications.
Any other questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agreement with CLEA for the increases as listed.
I'll make a motion to approve the increase as listed.
Second?
A motion second to approve the increases for the CLEA contract for $2,345 per full-time teacher, a 4% increase. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, regarding the sale of the house. We did not get any bids. So we will, I'm assuming we'll then now set a new public hearing date.
Yeah, so again, I think we need to make a motion to declare no sale. And then we can accept that and then have a conversation about, do we want to table the conversation for a future public hearing date? Or do you want to have a conversation about the minimum bid, knowing that our expenses are $131,000? Or do you want to advertise more aggressively? Like Mike has said, send a direct mailer, do something more officially, whether it's social media or traditional print media. But option 2 is really where we need to land. We don't have to set a hearing date now if you don't want to. We can. Minimum, again, is I need to notice the public 10 to 20 days before the meeting. So that's where I say a minimum of 10 days. We could do it again on the 28th in 2 weeks. That would give us time to publicize. We can wait and table it and talk about it. Whenever
What
you
did
guys,
you do for it? In the paper and stuff like that?
website,
Website?
Yep, social media.
Facebook and all that.
Very-
I don't disagree with him. I don't think that, I mean, a lot of people that I know don't read the paper, so we don't get the paper. And most of my friends, I would say, don't get the paper. I know that's a generational thing, but, and I don't know that I would like go to the Central Lyon website to look for it. You know what I mean? Like, probably wouldn't, unless I saw it advertised like downtown on the sign or, you know, receive something in the mail with a picture of the house, like, hey, this is gonna be for sale. So I'm not opposed to doing some more advertising for it so we can get
I think it
out
would be
for
a
it.
cool student-led opportunity
Yes.
for marketing, you know,
Yeah.
give them some exposure to that, designing that, researching whatever they need to do and maybe being a part of that, so to just.
Giving a couple of photos on it of like the kids building it and then kind of what it looks like
Right.
now and then who to contact if they wanna see the
That's
property
exactly
because
what the paper did for
Yeah.
us. Yep.
I just mean like on a postcard or whatever that I don't think it's a bad idea, but just 2 cents.
Well, we obviously have to do something different.
I mean, I'm interested, I know that we had interest in this, so I'm curious why,
And I
They
think
weren't
that's
here,
where
you know?
Grant and I go
Yeah.
back to the people that we've been
Yeah.
talking to.
Mhm.
You know, we both I had conversations with 3 different individuals today. Grant had conversations with 2 different people. So,
And
and
they all
maybe,
seem pretty like you were surprised they didn't show up tonight?
yep,
Okay.
and, you know, maybe if some of them were new people, maybe they just need more time to plan for it or whatnot, maybe because it's just been in the paper a couple of weeks, I don't know. We don't know those things.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of, like, we don't want to wait a real long time because
Yeah.
we're getting close to the end of the school year, but at the same time, you have to give people enough time to do the planning
Yeah.
and consider, you know, make those considerations.
Yeah.
You know, you're not just gonna go out and say, yeah, okay, I'll buy a house for $160,000, not knowing where you're gonna move to and not have a
Right.
lot. And all that kind of stuff. So it'll take some time to get those things put into place as well. If we find somebody, a brand new person that's not been involved in this conversation at all previously, which certainly is possible if we do some additional advertising, whatever that method is, that takes some time to get those details figured out for them.
Is there anything, you know, from Grant's perspective that, you know, how does this affect what he's doing with this class now? Like, you know, if there would have been a bidder, then they would have known how to go forward with the finishing touches and things like that, or, you know, how does this
yep.
fit?
And so,
Yeah.
again, in my conversations with Grant, if we would have had a bidder tonight, we would have entered into a contract negotiations with that person based upon their bid. And they either would have taken the house as is and they would have started on the next house, or they would have entered into a contract where they were going to essentially personalize the rest of the interior of the house, whether it's cabinets, flooring, fixtures. And so you're exactly right. They're at a point now where things that Grant's going to do are back in the shop for that construction trades class. So I feel like something like Dave is referencing sooner rather than later is appropriate. It's just a matter of us maybe going back to those 5 individuals and saying, what was your holdup? Was it the price? Was it just the logistics on your end? You just didn't feel ready? And then potentially opening it up to a wider bidding pool.
Could we, on like that March 28th, can we have a special meeting for 15 minutes regarding this to give us a little bit of time to maybe, you know, if we're gonna set a date or things like that, like we could maybe have a special meeting on March 28th, just real brief before
Yep.
we do what we're planning to do.
I also wonder, like, I mean, the advertising, like, have we entertained the idea, I guess, of like doing something mutually with like some of the people that have lots in town? Like maybe Rock Gardens Development saying like, here's lots available, you can contact this number, or these lots are available, Sunset Court, and you contact, whoever, like, I mean, maybe they would help with some advertising as well, if it's like a joint effort, like, here's a house, here's the lots that are available currently in town, because I think that would also kind of help with,
Can the city work with somebody who,
Right.
just like,
I mean, I also feel like that would also help keep the house in town, not that the
Yeah.
person would have to do that, of course, but it might help.
yeah, if there's some sort of partnership or an incentive
Right.
that the
Or
city.
even
is
just the
able-
knowledge of who to contact for a lot. If someone comes in completely, unprepared, like, yeah, here's a house, but where am I gonna put it,
Well, Secret of Foltz has a real estate division, Frontier Real Estate. And then obviously the development group or the city.
Right.
Mhm.
And then even, well, the Popke's ones, are those through a realtor as well, or are those, do they do those on their own?
I don't know for sure.
Because I know they have like but I don't know. Those are called Sunset Court, but that's
I
like
feel
East
like-
River
I feel
Development.
like they're through the realtors, but I.
They are, okay. That's why I didn't know if that was separate.
Anybody else you would like for me to contact?
I was just trying to think if that would be something worthwhile. Maybe that's a dumb idea.
I think it's at least a worthwhile conversation.
Right, because they might be interested in
Well, and if there's
the
some,
advertising as well.
if
Incentive.
there's some incentive that they can offer to help keep it in town, because you're using a school project for your house, and that's at a, we're doing that at a discount rate. And a lot also working together to keep it in town.
And yeah, maybe that's a student-led thing, but they want to have conversations. I don't know if that's a class that,
I would say
if
that
there's an appropriate
grants,
class that,
construction
Sure.
trades class is
Okay.
the one that's been leading.
Yeah.
The.
I didn't know if like the marketing, if that was really in the same wheelhouse, or if that would be something different,
I
you know,
think
but-
his goal is to expose them to all phases of the process.
Yep.
The design phase was a student in his class.
Yeah.
Did the floor plan. So students were interviewed for the interview and talked to the paper about the design of the ad
Yeah.
and stuff, so. So I think, number one, we need to declare no sale. And then table the future determination of the hearing date and minimum bid to whenever we meet again, whether it's March 28th, we set that as a
And
business
how
meeting.
long, what notice do you need? It needs to be not less than 10 days, not more than 20. Okay.
And again, we ran it for more than 20, but it needs to fit within that window. Like I said, we ran it 3 straight weeks.
Okay, so is there a motion to declare a no sale?
I'll make a motion to declare a no sale on the industrial tech house.
I have a motion second to declare a no sale on the industrial tech house. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Secondly, we will table the setting of a date for the public hearing. Is that what we need to do, Brian?
Yep.
Okay. So is a motion to table that setting of a public hearing date?
So moved.
Second.
A motion second to table the setting of a date for the public hearing for the sale of a house. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Consider 22-23 calendar amendment.
So is that tables the new minimum bid? We don't
Yeah.
have to-
Yep. That's a part of that resolution for the public hearing is the minimum bid.
And a date to be determined.
Okay.
Okay,
Calendar, yes. So I'm giving you a copy of the calendar and there are some details in regards to the recommendation that's included. We have presently 5 days of teacher contract that we need to account for, knowing that our students' last day is going to be June 2nd, Friday, June 2nd, the Friday after Memorial Day. And so my recommendation, based upon staff feedback, is that we capture Monday, April 10th, Monday after Easter, as a student day. We allocate 2 days of additional flexible professional learning for staff, both teachers, and support staff, that they could begin working on and would need to have those hours turned into their building principal by Friday, May 26th, which is the Friday before Memorial Day. And that we have 2 days of in-person professional learning on Monday and Tuesday, June 5th and June 6th for teachers. And again, that recommendation comes not only from the survey from staff, teacher leadership meeting that we had a week ago, and conversations I've had with the building principal.
Where does that put us in terms of student hours?
So 1,117 hours roughly.
So 1080 is the minimum, is that right?
Yep.
So that's 37 hours ballpark over the minimum.
And what do we normally schedule? How many hours do you normally?
So we started this year with roughly 1,160. That's what we've had the last couple of years. Again, looking at here at May, 1,080 if you wanted to do the minimum based upon the number of days and number of hours that we've missed. We could be done around noon on Thursday, the 25th. The Thursday before Memorial Day, if you really wanted to be. That would be the minimum right now. Now, we could have another
And then
snow
your
day.
teachers would be there the whole week.
Yep.
And then the
2
days
more.
after.
Yep.
Okay.
So really, we're talking 2 different things, right? Minimum 1080 for students, 191 contract days for teachers. And again, when the calendar committee met, we surveyed our families. Our families were fine with going to Friday after Memorial Day. But anything beyond that week after Memorial Day, people are like, our summer started, we don't want our kids in school. Staff is very similar. They want to start their summer. And that's where I think we've listened to them during the winter and already released a couple flexible PD days, knowing that we're going to be adopting math curriculum. That's why our recommendation is having 2 in-person PD days on the 5th and 6th of June. It allows our math teachers to get trained from the textbook company. And we're really down to making a decision between those 2 textbooks and curriculum materials. Allows those people to be on site with our teachers on the 5th and 6th of June. And then people would have the rest of their summer off until August.
Well, I think keeping the kids to what we've said, June 2nd, that makes sense. We need to get our instruction in and everything with May term. We're already cutting that close.
Yeah.
So,
I think that going beyond that, you're gonna have limited value of education.
and I think, yeah,
Kids are gonna check it.
we've gone past Memorial Day before.
Yeah.
It's not like we haven't, and I think everybody understands. I would have to imagine a lot of schools this year. And we've been blessed with extra days beyond that too.
So, thinking about, so the minimum's 1,080, you're at 1,117, I think you said scheduled currently?
Yep.
So that's 37 hours, how many days we typically have in a day, like 6 point something?
6 2/3. Yep.
So call it 7, so we'd have to have 6 more days of
weather-related issues to be at jeopardy of that 1,000.
Correct.
Hope we don't have that.
I was like, don't even say that. Don't talk about it.
But at the same time,
I'm just kidding.
No, I think if indeed we have some events where we have more snow days, we can have a conversation about extending the school day, starting at 8 o'clock, going to 3:30. That captures a half hour each day. And so if we start doing that April, after the April board meeting, if we've got 6 more snow days between now and the April board meeting, we can probably capture enough time to get to our minimum based upon a half hour each day.
And I know that the e-learning days do not count for students technically, and they do count for the teachers, but how did that go with the e-learning? I know in my household, it went great. And I have middle school to high school. They logged in, as far as I know, they did what they needed to do, and I had no hiccups at my house with it, and they
Feedback.
partially enjoyed it, I think. Wouldn't want to do it for a week or 2 weeks probably, but a day or two here and there worked fine at my house. Elementary, I can see where that would be a little bit harder because parents need to be a little more hands-on. I didn't have to do anything.
I think elementary, there were issues with the batteries, because the kids use the tablets at school and then they don't come home with chargers because they're in the cart. So by the second day already, you couldn't use them, which I think that was a problem. It sounded like most of the elementary teachers identified based on the emails I got from all my kids' teachers, it sounded like. So the second day they did more hard copy packets and stuff, at my house, but that was my other kids.
So this was the survey from kids. What activities were most effective? They, again, practice with work time and my teacher available to answer questions was the highest. Second highest was, again, traditional teacher-led instruction. And then maybe independent practice time. So that was from the kids. Parents, I think I had about 150 parents complete the survey. 85%, much like you, the two of you, positive experience with e-learning. And then almost 80% of staff said they'd like to continue. So again, we got 67 teachers. We had 59 complete the survey. 123 parents. So again, that's a part of legislation that's being debated right now, much like Minnesota currently has 5 days they can use of e-learning. That's what the proposed legislation is. We would be given 5 days of e-learning of flexibility next year, which would really solve our problems.
How was our participation? Pretty high also?
Yeah.
Learning students? I think that's the thing is I know some parents know that these days don't count, so there's some that are kind of questioning why do our kids have to participate, but I think for me, it's because we want to show that this works and that we can actually use these days. And that's part of the reason. Plus, we just want to keep kids engaged in learning, and it helps our teachers also.
This was the staff responses here. Attendance, 75% or greater, almost 37%, 50% or greater, 42%. So what's that? 78%, 79% of teachers said they had more than half of their kids participating. So yeah, I think attendance and participation was good. And I would agree that day one was higher and more engagement than day two. You did an article on it, right? So I think it was well received, and I think there's some things that we know we need to do better. But our first try, and chargers and things of that nature. We need to figure that out and have a better plan for that for our elementary kids. Our 7th through 12th grade kids go home every day with their computer and their charger. It's not an issue, and that's why we continued that. And we did the back-to-back e-learning for the 7th through Again, my recommendation is let's have in-person instruction on the 10th of April, 2 days of flexible PD between now and May 26th for staff, and then in-person PD on June 5th and 6th.
If we have more snow days, are we thinking that if we have enough notice that we would do e-learning for those days then too?
Yep. You know, like this week,
The teacher.
this week, our snow event's supposed to be Thursday. We don't have school on Friday because of parent-teacher conferences tonight and Thursday. So hopefully, you know, it doesn't come ahead of schedule and something happens on Thursday. Continue to monitor that, and then any future snow events. You know, I try to keep an eye on that, and if I think there's gonna be one at the beginning of the week, I let staff know, hey, be preparing. Elementary staff can be making the paper packets. Secondary staff can then be preparing their Canvas activities and online materials for access.
Yeah, it sounds like at least it won't start until sometime in the middle of the day on Thursday.
Yep,
So, yeah, at least part of the day, and then it sounds.
exactly.
Okay. So we need to approve the calendar. Amendment to include, as Brent has listed here, Monday, April 10th is student day, 2 flexible professional development days, and then in-person professional development, June 5th and 6th for teachers.
So just one more thing with the 2 days, the Monday and Tuesday, June 5th and 6th. With the teachers, was that part of your survey? And was that mostly okay for
Yep.
them? And maybe you should.
Yeah, I can send you the results of the teacher survey if you want to see that.
That, I know, I can see where teachers maybe could have plans
Mhm.
for the 5th and 6th, and I know some even do after Memorial Day sometimes, but with that 5th and 6th, was there any real issues with it with anybody that?
No, I think the majority of people wanted flexible PD days. They would love to have
For.
4.
Mhm.
But our conversation as teacher leaders based upon that survey was we've got the math curriculum specifically that we can devote 2 days of in-person learning for staff and familiarizing themselves with that new material, especially with a consultant from the curriculum, from the textbook companies here in person with
I
them.
think that's.
Instead of like what we did with science and reading materials, that happened in August. And there's a lot of things going on in August where that training maybe wasn't as effective as if we do it in June before everybody leaves for the summer.
So then for people that aren't involved with like the math curriculum, for example, then is there something scheduled for those
Yep.
teachers then? Okay, for those 2 days, or there will be.
So all of our K-4 teachers are math teachers.
Sure.
Starting in 5th grade, there's 7 staff members
Yep.
that are math teachers that will be a part of that training as well. But that'll be the teacher leaders, Mr. Engelman primarily, that will design the learning on those 2 days for those that don't teach math.
I will make a motion to approve the calendar with the amendments as listed.
Second.
I have a motion second to approve the calendar amendments as listed on the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Number 4, consider sharing agreement with GLR for 23-24 and 24-25.
Yes, so again, I put the proposed sharing agreement in here, highlighted the changes in yellow and the subtractions in the red strike through. Again, the primary change is any changes to the schedules will be mutually agreed upon by the athletic directors and superintendents before anything is finalized. So it'll be a 2-year agreement that would start August 1st and go through July 2025. And literally, just this afternoon, we got our preliminary football classification. So just I printed that before we started our meeting. So we usually do a 2-year agreement because it aligns with the football. Redistricting is always on 2-year schedules. The one time we had a 1-year agreement was because of COVID, and it was a 1-year football district. So we're back to a 2-year agreement like we were on this previous one.
Okay, other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the sharing agreement with Shores Little Rock for the next 2 years.
I'll make a motion to approve the sharing agreement with George Little Rock for the next 2 years.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the sharing agreement with GLR for 23-24 and 2024-25. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consider AEA purchasing services agreement.
Yes, so this is really a purchasing agreement so we can take advantage of buying in bulk with other schools from across the state. So again, primarily food service items, whether it's food itself or resources, materials that Darsha and the other food service staff would use, but it also includes a host of other office supplies as well. So again, since I've been here, we've approved this. I think every school district in the state participates in that, so we're really purchasing in bulk.
So motion to approve that agreement.
Motion to approve the ADA purchase services.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second to approve the AEA purchase services agreement. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consider open enrollment requests.
So we've got 3 open enrollment requests for next school year. First grader, 9th grader, and 12th grader. Again, the only question, and if you wanted to table, would be first grade, that's current kindergarten. If you're concerned about class sizes and you want to wait until we have a better, clearer projection for next year's first grade class, because the only authority that we have now is based upon available space. And knowing that this year's current kindergarten has 66 kids, we're planning for that to go from 4 sections to 3 sections next year. The board would have the authority if they wanted to table that. Otherwise, there are no concerns in 9th grade and 12th grade as far as space and class size.
When will we know, like, how many kids are being, recommended to repeat kindergarten?
So April,
April? Okay.
yep. So,
Sorry, maybe said
yeah, that's what Steve reported on, is the kindergarten teachers, TK teachers, preschool teachers are having those conversations about their recommendations
that. Okay.
at conferences.
Gotcha.
And then at any point, we can have a family move into the district or move out of the district. So there's no guarantee, but I am comfortable with one more student, accepting them now and just planning for them next year and adding them already to our projection list. And that's why I put it up here on the recommendation. If the board wants to wait, you're more than welcome to wait. But as far as I'm concerned, this is just like a new family moving into the district. We're planning for them already.
Okay. Other questions? Is there a motion to approve those 3 open enrollment requests?
I'll make a motion to approve all 3.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second to approve the 3 open enrollment requests. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under personnel, a resignation from Denise McCarty. Let's see.
Someone's alarm's been going off.
Okay.
Whose vehicle it is, but the alarm's been going off for, I can't. It's like the first one and
I'll have Leah walk out there.
is it yours?
No.
Oh,
Down a ways. Listen,
sorry, I've been seeing it flash now. I don't know what's going on out there. And finally, someone's alarm, but I'm not part of it.
Dominique, not yours?
No, you're parked down by me.
Mr. Bretzky's gonna walk out there.
Yeah, so I think you can do these individually, we can do them collectively. I'll just give you a brief summary of
I
all
noticed
these.
there isn't a resignation in here for Denise. It's
Right, it's not attached.
just not
Yeah.
attached.
Ms. McCarty, we approved last month her transfer from preschool to fourth grade. And so between that transfer and this month's meeting, she had applied and accepted a position with the Northwest AEA as early childhood consultant. So working with preschool teachers and then special ed teachers that do homebound instruction for early childhood students. So in her words, it was a dream job opportunity for her. So that's her resignation. Because of that resignation, the transfer, from last month, that opened up the preschool position, which Natalie Larson has requested a transfer. Again, Mr. Harmon led that transfer request interview process. It's his recommendation to approve that. Then Sarah DeBreeze is the recommendation for 712 at-risk and business teacher. Sarah's maiden name is Hulse, so Sarah has been teaching the last couple of years at Boyden Hall. So she is recommended to replace Denise Snyders in the secondary. And then Beth Stephen interviewed for the open high school Spanish position. Beth has about 30 years of experience teaching, whether it's at Ellsworth, Adrian, or the last couple of years virtually for a suburban district in Memphis. So she wants to get back in the classroom. The virtual teaching, while it's been a great learning experience for her, she said she misses the in-person teaching. So
Attention staff, if you have a vehicle parked on the west side of the school with a license plate Baby Joe, will you please come to turn off your car alarm? Thank you.
So those are the recommendations for those positions. Answer any questions you might have.
No questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve those personnel items as listed.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel items as listed.
We have a motion and second to approve the personnel items as listed. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Policy review. Two items there, A and B. Review of 6 policies.
Yes, no language changes on those 6 policies. Sorry, I didn't have a summary.
There
It's
is,
just in the detail.
oh, yeah.
Sorry. There they are. So again, no language changes, just kind of reviewing the content. The first reading of the 7-10 series really came out of our food service site visit. And so Darsha and I worked together to update the policy based upon our current, not necessarily practice, but what we feel is maybe more appropriate. So kind of in the middle there, I just today actually got a automated email from GMC saying that Bennett was under $10, really 3 days from being negative. So we would keep that similar type of automated email. And then you would get a similar automated email at negative $20 or less. And then if you were to get to negative 50, it'd be a phone call from either Leah or Rhonda, just notifying instead of an email, an actual phone call. But there, at that point, the secretaries would fill out the exhibit that I included as part of this policy. It's really a referral to the at-risk team in each building that then they could have a conversation, and whether it's the principal, the counselor, or Jeff Jager would then follow up again and say, "We noticed that you have a negative balance in your lunch account. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on, or, can we help you out with that?" And then they would provide a recommendation for a transfer from our donations account if there's a negative 50 or greater dollar amount there. Again, we've got some families that have 6 kids in our building, so they can get to negative 50 pretty quick. And sometimes it's just a phone call from the secretaries is all it takes. And there wouldn't even necessarily be a follow-up from the at-risk committee. But if it's a family that's, their financial situation has changed, it's a conversation about maybe they now qualify for free and reduced lunch and completing the paperwork. Ultimately, since I've been here, when individuals get a negative $100 balance or greater, we've never had to serve an alternative cold lunch, but that's what we would do based upon updates to this policy. Again, this is my 4th year, and that hasn't happened one time in 4 years.
So is this what is currently in our policy, or what
So the
what is?
what you're seeing here in the draft is green is the additions, red is the deletion.
Yeah.
And so
So we didn't have anything in there before with the $100 and or minus 100 and the minus 50. That's new.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. So the only dollar amount that we had was negative 20. If a lunch account reaches a negative balance of 20 or more, the student will receive an alternative cold lunch.
But
Like
we're
I
not
said,
done.
Well, I've never done that
Yeah.
since I've been here.
Yeah.
But the kind of best practice based upon the food service consultant was you locally talk about what you feel is appropriate for dollar amounts and then just follow the policy. Because we weren't following the negative policy. And we had to print out for her all of our negative balances. And then she talked to Darsha and talked to the secretaries and talked to me and said, "You got negative 20 here. Are you giving these kids an alternative cold lunch?" And we're like, "No, we're not." And so she's like, "You need to update your policy."
So it was more update your policy and follow your practices rather than enforce your policy.
Yep. And she said, "What you have is boilerplate from the school board association. That's why she comes out and does the on-site reviews. And so just because it's boilerplate from the association doesn't necessarily mean that that's practice.
Well, and like in high school, do they actually charge at the end of the line? Don't they
Yep.
charge? Well, they do.
Yep.
I thought it was before they go
At elementary, they do that, but at the high school, you could get seconds,
Sure.
or
That's good, sure.
you can take à la carte items,
Yeah.
or you can do. Plus, at the high school level, they can serve themselves.
Yeah.
On certain things, and so if you get to the end of the line and you haven't taken a vegetable or you haven't taken a fruit, they make you go back and take a vegetable or take fruit. Where at the elementary, we're serving everything. You don't get a choice, you're just getting it. That's why we only have 2 people in this kitchen down here, where we've got 6 people upstairs.
Okay, any other questions on either of those 2 sections of policies? Should we take these together, or do we need to have them separate?
I think we can take them together.
So we need to make a motion to approve the policies in section A and the first reading of the policy, is there 1 or 2 policies?
Policy and exhibit.
In section B.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the policies listed in section 8A and the first reading of 8B. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Announcements, dates to remember.
Again, we've had a host of schedule changes due to state basketball, snow days. I'd highlight that tomorrow we have the parade of bands, which was rescheduled from last week. Thursday, parent-teacher conferences, no school on Friday. Next Thursday, we'll have the 6 through 12 vocal music concert, and then Friday, the swing shows, back-to-back, middle school and high school. Then we've got a host of events on the 27th. Just to reiterate, I'm going to contact Matt, see if he can come before or after, if he can only do one or the other, or do I just want to say after?
My thinking is it will work better to do after, give us some extra time if we need it.
Very good. If it doesn't work for,
If we move up, I'm fine with that.
And we talked about maybe having that special meeting, I don't know, for the house.
Yep.
So I don't know if we start at, I can start whenever, but I know that, you know, what we're planning to start at 5:30
Yes.
right now.
Yep.
And so
Should move that up to 5.
5:15. I don't know, for the house, will we need much time?
you guys just need to talk about,
Yeah. Doesn't matter,
I feel like she'll just start sooner if we get done. So, I mean, 5 is fine with me.
yeah,
Then,
start at 5 and then plan on Matt at 6:30.
yeah.
And then if 6:30 doesn't work for him for any reason, then, well, I'll send a survey out. The next item then, you can see we've got the ISAS, Iowa Assessment Testing, that week prior to Easter. We'll be in session. We won't have school on Friday, Good Friday. Be in school on the 10th, which is our next regularly scheduled board meeting date. It is the same night as the high school track meet. I don't know if we're going to be running based upon the amount of snow that we have, but right now we're planning on hosting a high school track meet that night.
Melting.
Otherwise, prom is the 21st. Elementary concerts, April 25th. And you can see the end of the year events are coming quickly here. So,
I'm a little curious with this meeting that we had today, could we have had it a week later after conferences for some of these TK kindergarten? You know, I know that doesn't even give a lot of time
in my preference, I would rather have conferences earlier.
earlier.
You know, it's just tricky because we have state girls wrestling at the end of last week, or last week of January, first week of February. We got a week off, and then we have state wrestling, and then we have a week off, and this year and last year we were in state basketball in the middle to end of February and beginning of March. So I think in my preference would be to have conferences earlier so that we can have the conversations with families in regards to our recommendations for kindergarten, TK, so that when we meet in March, we know.
And was there a survey about that where is it teachers or parents like to have it at the end of the semester? Or?
Teachers like to have it at this time because then the third quarter usually is over. So they're having conversations about their performance during the third quarter. Again, my experience has always been second semester conferences happen before the end of the third quarter so that kids have 2 weeks, 3 weeks to make adjustments and improvements before the end of that grading period. But traditionally, this has always been the week that we've had conferences. I just think planning wise, if we're gonna have conversations with TK or preschool and kindergarten families, the sooner we can have that, the sooner you guys can make an informed decision about, do we need to have 2 sections of TK, 3 or 4 sections of kindergarten, and we can be ahead of that hiring process rather than what we ran into last year, you know, advertising in April and not getting any applicants for a TK position, and then ultimately having to do an internal transfer in June. So your point is well taken, but prior to the last 2 years, we hadn't been in the state girls basketball tournament since 2013, and the boys hadn't ever been there. So.
And when did we do that survey? The teachers, was that
I did it.
a couple of years, you know?
I did a community-wide one my very first year here. I survey the teachers every year on what did they like about the current calendar, what would they like to see changed, what are some ideas that people have, and then we have a committee that it's about 12 of us that sit in here and take that survey feedback. I usually have a couple sample calendars that I share with them, and then we talk about the pros and cons of both, and if I need to make adjustments, then I make adjustments, and then they take it back.
Is that something we go over in the April or May?
Yep, so again, usually we've had this conversation in January or February where we've had our public hearing about the next school year's calendar. But with all the snow days, our conversation and focus has been on, how are we making student days up? What amendments are we making to the current calendar? So we just haven't had that calendar committee conversation yet. That calendar committee is meeting next week.
Okay, on to bill review.
We got actually calendar committees tomorrow.
Thank you.
Think I might have given Amy and Barry a bigger slice of the pie. So you guys finish, you get to help those guys out. Done?
That's congratulations.
That's what I do.
Anybody want me to take the folders?
Like, I don't feel
I've
that.
had two empty ones too, but you want to take.
Yeah.
I'll let you try it, or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
You may do one too.
You got the middle, don't you?
Yes. If I'm on my last page.
Think she got the
Just
eight.
the beginning. Nice, Scott. I can hear it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second?
There's a motion second to adjourn.